Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm streaming Space Engineers for some creative building. For those of you that haven't played it or heard of it before, it's a game by Keen Software House and available on Steam and on the Xbox. And it started out life as a physics simulation sandbox, but has evolved quite readily into a game with survival elements. So my plan is to build vehicles in here on a Sunday, and then I'll be using those vehicles in the survival game that I play with my wife, and we'll be streaming that on a Monday evening around 7 p.m. UK time. And I wanted to do this on stream to show my design process and maybe let people pick up some tips and tricks from it. So today I'm going to be building a rover. That's going to be useful in the early game to go out and mine some boulders, maybe some shallow ore deposits, add plenty of storage to it to haul it all back to the base. I want storage to be useful for hauling components as well, so need to make sure that there's certain connections in place for that. And before I get started, I do have a couple of mods installed, and these are mostly tools to make my life useful, such as build vision, build info, and then I've got a couple that will change the way that the build looks and maybe add some new blocks as well. Those are AQD armor expansion, the AQD no armor edges, and conveyor expansion mods, all by Enra. More pistons by Newtguard, struts by Psycho, and the small advanced rotor by Digi. I might not use all of those, and we'll see as we get through the build. But I put them in every game I start because I do find them useful. I'm going to link in chat a list of all the mods that I have installed, just in case anybody's interested. That link will take you to the mod collection so you can see them. So, let's get started. I've set up this platform as the build platform. This is one of the pistons from the More Pistons mod, and we'll be using this to build on top of to give us some clearance off the ground for this rover. And we're just going to start, I think, by setting up, we'll put a single block on, and I'm just going to set up the symmetry mode. So that we can build a little bit more efficiently. If you've not used symmetry mode before, you just point at the block with a block in your hand, press M to cycle through the different planes of symmetry. Click when you find the one you want, and then N will turn symmetry on and off. So in terms of this build, I need to think about weight distribution because it's a rover. We need a low centre of mass, and it needs to be able to carry some large cargo containers, which they're quite big. I think they're 3 or 5 blocks wide. Have a look. So they're the large cargo containers. So yeah, we're looking at 5 blocks wide there. Now, you'll note on the large cargo containers that 3 sides have the small access ports and 3 sides have the large access ports. And we need to be using these large access ports through the rover so that the bigger components can pass through into all the cargo containers. So I need to change the way this is oriented at the moment. But this gives us a good idea of the width that we're going to need. So, morning, Hobbitly. But the first thing I'm going to do is lay out the basic shape I want this rover to take, and as I said, we need to have a fairly low centre of gravity. So I'm going to build this up from the sides here, and we're going to use these 2x1 ramps to bring this up. Just a little bit there, and that's going to act as we're going to have a mounting point for the wheels at the back here that's raised up a little bit, because the wheels I'm going to use are going to be the big 5x5 wheels. And then we will bring this forward a little more. And I'm just going to create the mounting point for these wheels now and get those attached at the back here. So we want the left and the right wheels. And this block I've selected is multi-block, so it's I can scroll my mouse wheel, change what's being used here. And we want, on wheels, we want that hydraulic piston to be on the top. And I'm just going to turn off symmetry for this so that we can put the correct wheels on each side. You'll have to let me know as well how the audio sounds. This is my first time streaming, and if the game sound is too loud, do let me know. Okay, so those wheels will give us a nice bit of clearance under the chassis without raising the chassis too much and giving us problems with the centre of mass. One of those on there, and I can't get the so we could just put another one straight on the front of this, but what I like to do is to use the conveyor frame in between. That way, if one of these cargo containers gets destroyed, it's not going to do damage to the container next to it, because there's essentially an air gap between them. Still got those the right way round. At least that. So 2 large cargo containers will probably be enough for the early game, picking up ore primarily, so it's quite bulky, but that will give us enough ore coming back to the base each time that we're not going to be wanting for ore too much. Symmetry back on. just want to move this support rod now to be directly under the cargo container. And that just gives it another connection point underneath. So even if everything else around it gets blown off, it's still actually connected to the vehicle underneath. Now looking at this, I'm going to mirror this same setup at the front here. So if that's the block in line with the port on the cargo, then I need to drop that bit off there, get rid of that. And let's build this up the front way here as well. Like so. The only difference between the two sides on the wheels is the direction of the tread. So if you're not worried about what direction the tread looks like it's going, you can just use the symmetry mode for this, but I like to have them actually balanced. Got the sun just coming up over the mountains there, looks kind of pretty. Right. So we now have what could be just a trailer here. This could just be a very simple trailer to hitch up, but I want this to be connected to our main drive piece of the rover, which will be the front end. I'll be using a script to make sure we can use these wheels as drive wheels, but I do want to have a detachable section on the front that can go off and do mining on its own without needing to keep the back piece connected while it does so. And that will reduce the bulk of the front end mining bit, allowing us to get to more places with it, and then we just come back and reattach to this when needed. So to make sure that we will be able to attach that, I'm going to use a advanced rotor. We'll stick the advanced rotor on this side, and as you can see, that gives actually a conveyor connection from these containers on the back all the way through to this rotor on the front, which I will lock for now so that it doesn't start spinning around when we build on it. And then off of the front of that, what do we need next? I think we're going to need to have a conveyor adapter on that. That'll let us swap the conveyor down into small conveyors. that way on. Actually, not doing that. We'll use an O2 generator instead, because the O2H2 generator has a nice large port on the back and these two small ports on the front, and that'll let us connect up to our cockpit. And as we will see, the cockpit has 2 ports on the back, 2 ports on the back, regardless of which one we go for. I like this cockpit, the industrial cockpit. I think it just looks nicer on this kind of rover. So let's get some small conveyors in here. And you'll notice that the symmetry mode has disappeared, and that's because we are now on a different grid. The rotor creates a subgrid as you pass through it, so we'll just need to set up that symmetry mode again here. Now we may use this rover on a planet that doesn't have much of a breathable atmosphere. There's a little trick we can do with those kinds of things that will let us breathe inside the cockpit. For now, I want to get this connected up at the right height. We want to go one lower than that, I think. There we go. So we now have this cockpit is connected through these conveyors to the O2H2 generator. And through that and through this rotor we have connections into the cargo storage. Now these small connectors will only allow ores to pass through them, but that's fine because when we're mining ores the drills are out here, so we'll be good with that. What we are going to do is we're going to put a vent, put an air vent in this little gap at the top here. And that air vent will be set to depressurize so that it compresses the air from the atmosphere and feeds it into the cockpit here. And that will save us some ice because the O2H2 generator is not going to have to work as hard to generate that oxygen. Okay. Something very important that I am forgetting on here at the moment is batteries for power. And I don't appear to have left myself anywhere to put a large battery. They are quite big. Maybe actually in here. How does that look? That's dropping down below the bottom of the chassis a little bit. The wheels will keep it off the ground, but I don't like its chances if we hit any large bumps, because it's likely to just explode if it hits the ground. So we're not going to be able to put those in here. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to fill this gap here with some small batteries. And between all of those, they should manage to supply enough power. to these wheels. Wheels don't use a lot of power anyway. So we should be okay with that, and that should keep us running. And what we'll do as well is we will have a hydrogen engine somewhere on this build that will give us a way of recharging when not in use. Don't like that. That looks hideous. But we could put them on the sides here. See how that looks. Oh, they are noisy. I'm not sure about that. What do you guys think? Enough of that noise. I agree, Hobbitly, a robot dog with wheels. Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to leave them there for now, and I'll build the wheels under here, and we'll see how it goes. So, what I'm aiming for is this front section is going to only have 2 wheels, and we're going to use it, taking some inspiration from Splitsy, we're going to use it as with a gyro override, and it'll be able to detach, go mine, be quite nimble in itself, and then come back and reattach to deposit its cargo from the drills into the containers. To do that, I'm going to need to bring this out a little bit. I may need to bring these drills forwards a little bit as well, but I'd like to try and keep it fairly well centered around the cockpit when I'm using it on its own, because that will make life much, much easier. Let's have a look. Actually, let's use a half slab here, in fact, out to there, because then we can use one of these just here. Like this. Yes, I think these drills are going to have to go a little bit further forwards. Perhaps do that for now. Okay. And in theory, I should have enough space here to get these wheels in. We will see in a moment. There we go. Ooh, that's going to be very wide. And I'm not going to be able to get the drills in front of those wheels to make space. That's going to be quite difficult. Okay, let's get rid of these. Put that off. Let's see if we can do this a little bit closer in, and I'll bring the drills a bit forward. Yeah, that looks better. So let's get these on this side. There we go. Okay, that does look a lot better. So we need to make sure that we've got drills at a decent enough height that they're not going to be drilling out the ground from under us, but still far enough forwards that we're going to be able to clear these wheels. So that green circle there, this is from Build Info, sorry. These circles show the radius of the drill's mining capabilities. So the green one is the one I'm interested in for normal mining. The red one is when we right-click mine. But the green one is the one that, so if I'm driving forwards, that green sphere needs to be above where the bottom of the wheels is. Otherwise, as you drive forwards while mining, it mines out a little bit lower than the wheels, and you end up eventually in a vertical hole face down in a ditch. And that's quite difficult to then get out of. So let's bring some tubing out from back here. That should have put symmetry back on for that. I forgot, so I will go and do the same on the other side. So if I now put the drill on the front of that, how does that look? That, I think, will be right. Oh, no, I don't want that hitting the wheels, so we need to come out one more from there. So let's bring that one more out from there. So these tubes are going to feed the ore back through the conveyor system into these containers if we're using it while it's connected up. If we're mining ice, it'll feed the ice straight into the O2H2 generator as well, so that's helpful. Okay. I think they overlap. So in the middle of the cockpit. Yeah, they're going to overlap just slightly, so as long as I sweep up and down with them a little bit, there'll be enough material removed to allow this rover to come through. And the same on the sides where the wheels are as well. I think we're just about going to get away with only having 2 drills on that, which is excellent, because that means a lot less resources used to build it. So I'm very happy with that. So something I do want to do here is to connect up these drills now to the chassis so that we are not going to have any issues with them falling off if pipes get damaged. That means I'm going to change that block there for a squarer block. So this block is one of the blocks from Enra's AQD armor extension, and it adds basically adds a block where the 2 sides of it match the profile of the 2x1 large block, and the other side is the normal slope, so you can actually connect them up and you've got a nice little you don't have to have any weird breaks in the armor flow, which I quite like. It's one of the blocks that has been missing for a long time in Space Engineers, so hopefully Keen will see that and will start and actually include them in the game. Okay, how we're looking now, do we think? Okay, so I'm quite happy with this now, and what I'm going to do before I do anything else with it is I'm going to put some gyros on it for a start, so that we can test things. I need probably 4 gyros, I think, to make this work. Okay. And has anybody spotted the other problem? I am short some batteries on the front bit. Fortunately, I believe I have some space under here that will take a battery quite nicely. I just need to drop a block in there. Now stick a couple of large batteries in there, which is really nice, because then when it is all connected up, the large batteries are going to provide plenty of power for everything, And these small batteries in the back, I can probably reduce how many of them there are now, because I only need it to keep this back bit powered while I'm not connected up. So that would be really helpful while I think about it. Speaking of connectors, we're obviously going to need a connector on the back to connect up to the base. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that so far. So before I go into any more detailing, I'm going to take a copy of that. I'm going to bring it over here. And I'm going to bring it down and detach it from this piston. There we go. So that might be a problem driving off, but let's get in the cockpit. So that drives quite well. Just driving it forwards. I think we need a bit more strength on the wheel suspensions to raise it up a little bit. So let's do that. So we'll give them a little bit more strength, so that lifts up to their maximum height all the way through. We've got a nice amount of ground clearance there. I'm quite happy with that. We do need to remove that piston head from under there. Okay, so that works quite well. Let's take that for a drive now and see how it handles. Drive out on the ice here. Okay, so at the moment, only those two front wheels are providing any kind of driving, any kind of drive for this. And it's a little on the sluggish side, but on a flat surface, it is handling it quite well. So let's just apply the subgrid control script on here. Place to stick a programmable block. Anybody? Underneath here. Not really anywhere to stick that under there nicely. So we'll just stick it on the side here for now. So I do play with scripts enabled. I find playing locally or even just local co-op scripts make life a lot easier in terms of what we can use. But my workshop seems to be being a little bit broken at the moment, which is not too helpful. Let's try that again. Okay, we won't be using any scripts then today. Not actually that useful, but there is a script available that will allow me to make these rear wheels also assist in the driving and the steering. And then I can also apply the driver assist script as well, which will make it automatically set speed limit and suspension levels based on the mass of the vehicle and things like that. So all of that will make this a lot easier to drive. I just need to find nicer places to put these programmable blocks, which we'll go back over to our build version and we'll stick them in here, I think. Having one on either side just behind the gyros, that should make it nice, easy to hide them away. Okay. So the next thing we need to do then is to make sure that we have everything on here that we actually want on here. Let's have a look. So we have a vent, it's on depressurized, that keeps oxygen in the cab. We've got some engines. Oh, I know what we need. We're going to need some small hydrogen tanks. Now, the small hydrogen tanks are going to be here just to really power these engines. And I don't want to put loads of them on. But I don't want to run out of hydrogen either in game. So I'm thinking they can be on the trailer because this front section should be powered by these batteries anyway, and the engines are really there for two reasons. One, to give a bit of counterbalance to the weight of the drills when I'm in two-wheel mode, and the other to provide emergency power to recharge batteries and such if I run out of power when I'm not near enough to the base to get connected to it. So we could stick a couple down here like this. And that's going to be the same on the other side, so that means that we've got 6 small hydrogen tanks, which I think will be more than adequate to keep these engines running, particularly if I've got a good supply of ice. The O2H2 generator can keep filling these up when we're not running the engines, and then the engines can run off of those when we are. So they need piping in. So let's do that. They're going to come across like that. It's going to come up into there, and we're going to have a connection there like that. Go green, and we're good. And I might just connect this up this way as well, just for a little redundancy. Again, if some conveyor connections get shot out, it's nice to be able to still function. So having that redundancy there will make sure that they stay piped in, even if we get a break somewhere in the system. Okie dokie. So now it's just a case of greebling this and making it look a little bit more pretty. Although I'm kind of liking this industrial kind of look to it, so I don't want to do too much. As always, I'm very tempted to put a turret on the top for some defence, but that's not really the purpose of this vehicle. The realist in me is saying I should do it anyway. But if we were going to have a turret, I guess we'd actually want two, because we'd want one on the front section as well, in order to protect us while we're actually mining a boulder, if we've left the cargo unit a little way away. And the cargo unit itself wants some as well, so let's add some turrets to this. I want to put one of these in here to lift the turret off the O2H2 generator a little, because if the turret gets destroyed, it will generally destroy whatever is directly underneath it as well. So putting this here, although there's no connection there underneath, it will just protect things a little bit on the front there. And we'll take the Gatling turrets, which are massive. And we'll whack one on there. One there. Ooh, I don't like that. That makes the whole thing look very top heavy. So let's get rid of this one. How does that look? That's better, I think. I think that gives it a little bit more balance front to back. And if we look at it from the front, it doesn't make it terrible in shape here either, so I think we'll go with that. And we just need to pipe in this front turret here, and we've got a connector here just underneath it. So we just pipe this up like that. And then we can put a little bit of armour around this, just to give them some protection as well. This back one doesn't need any extra piping because it's going to pipe straight through there into the large box anyway. So, how are we going to do this? So the first thing I'm going to do, I think, is we're going to start with some slabs, some half-block slabs here. And I want to do that because I want to make sure that we're not touching this middle cargo container with the armour, and that will help to eliminate some of the probability that if the armour gets damaged, it can deform into the space that that container is occupying and blow it up anyway. So by leaving a bit of a gap, it should help avoid that situation. And if we run that all the way back here, and then we can make it look like this turret is just kind of clamped down onto it, like that. A similar thing on the front of the turret there, but in this case, and take it forwards like that. Then that. We get a little bit of armour. Gives us... I know there's holes. You know, I don't want to make this too heavy with armour. We're just connecting things up, really. That's all this is really for, is to make sure that everything has a connection, has multiple connection points to the body of the ship, so that when pieces inevitably get shot off, we're not gonna just suddenly find one of these turrets go flying off into the air and leave us without any defences keeping them connected like this. Will just help make sure that it doesn't end badly, maybe. Okay, so back here, we're going to go for another one of those just there. And let's bring that down. And again, we can use the slabs here just to give us another connection point onto that connector. And in the back here, just like that, and it just again solidifies that connection. We do have one down here anyway. We want to change up a little bit like that. Make sure that that is actually connected by a different route, which it is. So we can also use those same blocks again here, just to make the transition over into a square block. And that gives us an accessible connector. We can back up onto the base and get connected up. And we just need to do something now with this bit that looks like it's just been plonked on. So from under here, let's give these tanks a little bit of protection. Because hydrogen tanks are, in the game I'm planning to run, they will be explosive if they get shot. So let's give them just a little bit of a shield there, which will stop them from taking too many hits straight away. And I think maybe just end that as a shield. Explosive, thanks for following. So just put this kind of armor barrier up the side a little bit. Again, it gives a little bit more protection from the odd stray shot. It's not going to be... this isn't supposed to be a vehicle that gets into combat. If we're getting seriously shot up, then this vehicle's going to just get destroyed. but it does give me a little bit more survivability on it, and make it so that we have a chance of running away and surviving to fight another day. Okay. That gives that. I just need to figure out what to do with this top bit now, because it's not. I'm not terribly happy with it. Whoops. I don't know if you saw that, but this little bit here did just disconnect, which is odd because it should have been connected by that block, and it should have been connected there as well to the face of that block. So we'll take that out entirely. Go on, get lost. Gone. Okay, so note to self: the faces of slabs don't connect to other blocks. Good to know. Learn something every day. Ooh. Interesting idea. Let's do that. Ooh, I quite like the way that looks. That is very nice. Not sure I like how that just jostled. Oh dear. Okay, so that looks like that is not connected to these either. Okay. We can deal with that though, that is fine. It's connected there. I see. Okay, so what we're going to do here is under here we're going to do the same again. That does keep bouncing. It's like it's not connected, but it is. Oh, I see. That is a problem. So the problem we've got here is this front turret that this row here is connected to is on the grid at the front here. You can tell because the symmetry planes turned blue when I point at this one. And if I go and look at the turret at the back here, the symmetry plane turns red because that is part of the rear assembly. Which means I don't want to wrap that around at all. because that would mean I wouldn't be able to detach the front piece. So we're going to get rid of these side bits, as nice as they were. And that would also explain why it wasn't connected up here as well. Great. So what we need to do then is to build a separate assembly around this rear turret. And again, we don't want this bit connected either. That isn't connected. And this is actually the reason I didn't spot that is because Keen have recently done an update that means that there are actually better collision meshes now for these blocks. So it did sit there very nicely. Before that update, it would not have even let me place those blocks. So this is an interesting side effect of Keen's latest update. So let's make sure we've got a nice sturdy mount for these turrets to sit on first of all, and then I can deal with actually doing the fancy bits. That's nice. Let's get rid of this. Lots of clangs. Let's get that gone. Cool. Okay. Now at the front here, because we've got this piping that's sticking out, I think I actually want to give that a little bit more protection. We'll just put a full block in at the front. Then something like that. Yeah, okay. Okay, that's not terrible. I do quite like the look of that. So now I need to do something that gives us a bit of a shield over the top of this cargo box in the middle here. And I think I'm going to start that from the outside here. This. Let's come out one more there, and then angle it inwards. Like that. Yes, I do like that. That looks good. And now we can reconnect that and even have it in that extra little bit down like that. Okay. And just here, I'm going to feed this back a little further and angle it in like that. And that will give us the perfect spot then to clamp that down to again there like that. So we now have a bit of a shield at the back here. I'm just trying to see how to bring this in to the design a little bit here and still keep this connection point on the turret. Ooh, that might work. I made the one underneath it a square slab. Yeah, let's do that. And then that one out. That, do that. It still looks a little blocky to me, but I think I'm going to come back to that in a little while once I've got the rest of it greebled, because it may just be that it falls into place nicely. So this back bit now, we should be able to connect this up to this because they're the same grid now, which we will actually do like this. Give it clamp like that. Better if I picked the right block. No, I don't like that. That's not what I wanted. There we go, that's what I want. So get rid of those. I see what to do now. We can make it use the smaller version of that ramp up here, and the larger version down here, like that. We get that nicely connected up. And now I'm thinking I want something off of the back of here. That's going to come around and connect up to this shield on the side. Again, just giving it a little bit more of a connection point. So we've got another one of Enra's blocks here that looks like it might just fit nicely. Complete that transition there. And then on the outside here, we can bring that in and bring in some more of the slabs to connect in round there like that. So we've got effectively double armor there, because all of these light armor blocks on small grid all only have one steel plate in them, so they all have exactly the same hit points. So by doubling up two slabs like this, you actually get double the armor, as though you'd put two full blocks next to each other. That's quite interesting. Right. Let's step back and take a look at this now. Okay, I think we're ready for another test drive anyway. This piston's looking a little bit like it's struggling, so we're just going to share the inertia tensor on that. So let's get rid of the earlier versions. Take another copy. Go. Okay, so again, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to set the wheel strength. Bring this up. Okay, so acceleration is not terrible. We don't normally want to go above sort of 15 meters per second anyway in rovers, particularly over rocky terrain. That's how you end up essentially launching the rover into the air and flipping it. So I do like the handling so far. Adding the extra wheels with the subgrid control script will just give us extra power for getting up hills and things like that. Bit more steering capability, because the steering is fighting me a little bit at the moment. And that, I think, is going to be most of this done. I might just see if I can connect that top shield up to another location, just so that it's got a bit more rigidity there. Or maybe not. It's got 3 points at the back. If that turret at the back gets blown up, we lose the shield over the cargo. But I don't think that's a terrible idea at the minute. So the next thing to test then, which first of all, let's bring the sun back. Make it daytime again. Yep. Okay, so those that is me just moving the mouse. So that's the gyros on the front here. We're doing that, so they're plenty strong enough for what I want them for. So what I am going to do now with this test version is I'm going to detach the rotor. I've just noticed a problem with the build though. So this rotor in here, the rotor body is on the rear piece and the rotor part is on the front piece. If I'm driving the front piece, I won't be able to reattach this rotor easily. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select that rotor and detach that. So I've done that so I can do this while I'm in control of the vehicle. I'm going to detach it and move this forwards a little bit. So this is what I wanted to be able to do, and I'm using the gyros on the front there to control this at the moment. So if I were to lean those forwards and then get out, so that'll rest quite nicely there. What I want to do here is make one of these gyros override. Might make two of them override actually. Now I can get out here like this and it doesn't tip forward anymore. Looks like it might be slowly tipping backwards. But from a point of view of actually using this vehicle, I can live with that. That'll mean that we can have it go out and do some mining with it on its own, bring it back, and we're going to be able to reconnect it to this quite easily. Once I make this last change, so we're going to take that rotor part off of there, I'm going to take the rotor base off of there, and what I'm going to do is put the rotor base on that side, get rid of the part, and get the advanced rotor part and put it on that side. So now, if I get back in this vehicle, and I'm going to change this so we get the rotor here, so we've got detach and attach, and I also want to set that rotor to rotor lock. Actually, don't want to set it to rotor lock, but I do want to set some braking torque on it. We'll set the braking torque to the same as the normal torque and then turn it off. So that'll allow that rotor to freely spin. If I carefully try to back this up there, I should now be able to hit number 8 and we are reattached. I am actually really happy with that. It's got a wide enough wheelbase as well that terrain is not going to tip us over, not easily anyway. I'm quite happy with that. So now for the paint job. Let's get character tools. We'll have the paint gun, please. Let's think. What colour scheme should we use? Anybody got any ideas? 2 colours. Green. Green is one then. Let's go for green. So I think having the drills be that main colour. Well, that looks like a different shade of green. The blocks. There, that's better. So, let's make these all green along here. In fact, if I turn symmetry back on, this will let me paint both sides at once. So, shall we have a red accent on this as well, maybe? Red and green, anybody? Yeah, I think the colours are a bit too evenly balanced at the moment on it. I'm probably going to need to put red across there as well. Okay, so keeping with this then, we go green for cargo, nectar. Hmm. It already looks a bit dirty. So, I mean, we could. There it is. There you go. Make them rusty. Make this front end bit a little bit rusty. And that's what's going to be doing the work. go. So the front end's going to be doing quite a lot of work, so having it be a bit rusty down the front and then a little bit more pristine towards the back, or not pristine, but the battered look towards the back, makes it look as though it's actually done some work. That's a good shout. That is explosive. I think we want these to be probably the lighter green, don't we? Back here. Okay, so we'll go in the green up the back there, but then I'm actually thinking about this shield on top maybe being in the red. So what do we think? Might have missed some painting here. And then we've just got the batteries underneath. I might just leave the batteries grey actually, because they're kind of these little ones, they are kind of separate, they're a different thing, aren't they? So leaving those grey makes them stand out under there. I'm actually really happy with this. got a little bit under there to paint still. Just playing around with some of the other skins now, just to have a look. Camouflage. It's actually furry. Furry Gatling turret. That kinda looks cool, I guess. Yeah, I like that. Okay, I'm really happy with how that's come together. It's worked really well. It's a nice little rover. We can take it out, do some mining. I now need to blueprint these two pieces separately so that we can build them. So I'm just going to get in here. I'm going to match this piece. Rest its drills down. Yeah, I'm really happy with this. It's come together so nicely. Okay, so we'll blueprint this. Actually, first let's name it. So we need a name now. Any ideas from those watching? With playing WoW so much lately, and particularly playing the Taurens, I was thinking something about the cargo mover. But obviously that has absolutely nothing to do with the game of Space Engineers. Yep, let's go with the cargo mover to start with. That section. And then this one, let's find a port that I can access to get in there. About the ore mover. More of an ore hoover, I guess. Let's give them decent names. So that And this will be the cargo module. Okay, so we've got these, and the beauty of this design actually is that either piece of this could have different functions as well. So if we just wanted a little tug front end for it, we could create that and have a piece that doesn't have the drills on it. So if we know we're not going somewhere that we're going to be drilling, then we could use a front end that doesn't have drills. You could create a front end with welders on, with grinders on, and have the same kind of setup. Welders and grinders wouldn't work as well with small conveyor ports here, so we'd have to find a way of linking them into the large conveyor ports, but it's doable. In fact, that's something we should probably look at, isn't it? Is different front ends for this. Got about another hour, so let's blueprint these, and I'll go back over to our build station, and we'll design a different front end on it. Cargo module. And the drill module. So at the end of the stream, I'll publish both of these onto the workshop so that other people can download them and have a play with them. Right now, let's see about, I think a grinder module on the front end would be quite nice. We'll get rid of these. Let's get rid of all of this stuff off of here. We're probably, let's clear off a chunk of this. So this is one of the minor difficulties I'm going to have here with building on this front end, is because it's supported by the back end here. If I were to just get rid of this block here, the whole front end would just fall off. So I need to find a way of supporting this front end as well. And we're going to do that under here. So we need an advanced rotor. The right way up would be good. That's weird, it just dropped its rotor part through the planet. Add a small head. A piston on the front of that as well. And then we'll stick a merge block on that. That. Line this up properly. Which I can't do because it's not full block. Awesome, so all we need to do now is lock that rotor and reverse that piston until that locks in. And we are now connected solidly on the front here. Off. Get rid of that. So let's just get rid of this back piece. Ah, no. Don't want to do that. Let's... Fortunately, that was a cut operation. Let's do that properly. Get rid of the back piece. And now we can have a look at what we're going to do here. So I think still having these the O2H2 generator here is going to be helpful, or at least having one on here somewhere going to be helpful. We still need to have this this system conveyed in. If we stick one of these here like this, it gives us the large cargo access that we need, or the large conveyor access. So we need to bring that round to the front. And the reason for that is because the grinders, ship-based grinders anyway, only have large cargo access, and they only have large cargo access because the components that they're grinding won't fit through small conveyors. Doing that like that. I actually think we need to bring this a bit further forwards because it's going to have to offset the balance of the O2H2 generator on the back. Going to be there. That might look a little weird now. It's not terrible. How does it look from in here? Seriously reduced field of vision, but I don't think that's going to be too big of a deal for this module. So on the back of here then, we're going to stick the O2H2 generator. And that means that that is conveyed. Actually, no we're not. That is going to be a little bit annoying because we actually need a large conveyor on the back here to connect up, otherwise we can't send the components through into the cargo. So, can we... just connect those there so that it holds it in place while I get rid of that. So we want to go like that, really. See, we do have, this is a rover, so it's only ever going to be used on planets. And we do have that ability to put the vent in here, so that gives us the oxygen that we need while we're in the cockpit. So I'm not sure. The only reason to have an O2H2 generator on these vehicles in this case is to be able to refill hydrogen bottles for your suit jetpack. And given that you've got a rover to get around with, and this is a grinding one as well, so you're probably going to be using it to grind out a base that you've taken over. Don't think we really need the O2H2 generator on this one. It's more useful on the drill module, because you might be down a long hole and you might get stuck. You're going to get out of that hole, you need your jetpack. That makes sense. But this one I don't think you're going to end up in large holes with. So we'll leave the O2H2 generator off. So now we can stick that on, no, wrong piece. Changed it round, so we can do that there. So that gives us our connection point back to the cargo module. There. So all we need now on here is some gyros to keep it stable. The programmable blocks for handling the subgrid wheel controls. And a battery or two. Now, fortunately, I think I can get a battery under here with relative safety. Only the one battery. We can get 3 on this one, so that'll give us plenty of power to be grinding with. And they're far enough off the ground, they're not going to get nuked by hitting the ground, particularly where they're situated when we're connected to the module. So I'm quite happy with that as placement. I do want to give them another connection point though, so I think we're going to bring this armor block here over to the batteries, and that just gives them another connection point on either side, which I should have turned symmetry back on for. So that deals with that. And I think I'm actually going to just bring these out a couple like that. Yeah, let's go 3 out from there. But in fact, let's put an end piece on there. Like that. And that then will give us a spot to stick our programmable blocks and our 2 gyros that we want on either side. Now again, I'd like to put a turret on the front piece here, but I don't really think that this piece will be getting into combat at all, and if it does, it's going to be connected to the rear piece anyway. So the one turret on the rear piece is probably adequate for this one. By the time this guy's going in, the combat's well and truly over. This guy comes in to essentially grind out the base and take all of its materials. I think we might be done on this one. I'm going to have a look at the other one just to see if there's anything I've missed. Some engines to give us some ability to handle power loss would be helpful. With 3 batteries on here, it's not going to be a terrible shame if it runs out, or we don't get engines on here, because the amount of power in this, it'll be on charge well before it ever runs out. So actually, that's another good point as well. There's no point putting hydrogen engines on this one because we don't have an O2H2 generator to feed them. This one. So unless we can find somewhere on this rear piece to stick an O2H2 generator, we're a bit out of luck on that one. That said, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem anyway, particularly if we make sure we keep these full of hydrogen. We could stick one engine on here and still be okay. Sod it, let's do it. We'll stick an engine on there. That's a good question, Explosive. You could potentially... so this cargo trailer does have a connector on the back. So if we built 2 of them, we could flip one around, and so we could flip them around and maybe connect them up like that. That gets a little precarious though when driving, because these connectors, once they're connected, lock them in solidly. So unless you're on a perfectly flat surface like this ice, when you connect them up, you could be a little bit off kilter with it, and it doesn't provide any ability of movement at all. Whereas with the rotor, as we've got it on the front here, we can turn the rotor base off, and it will allow the rotor to freely spin a little bit, at least, to account for some differences in terrain. That said, we could build another version of this where we have a rotor part on both sides. Or we have a rotor on one side and a rotor base on the other, so that we could have additional modules between this rear module and the front module. Yeah, as I say, when we build this in game, this is going to be designed as a very early game starting rover, with a view to being able to build other useful bits on the front end. 2 large cargo containers is quite a lot, really, in terms of storage, in the early game at least. And as I say, if we wanted to then extend it and make it into more of a train, if you like, that we could drag along the landscape. We could even do something like this if we got really brave. Start to create hitches between them, and then in here stick either a connector like that, or and then you just like that. So we've now got one that could essentially go on the back here, could be connected up on the back. Turn off these hinges, it then gives it some movement to be able to match up to the terrain. We might want to have a rotor in here as well, just so it's got a movement in all the different axes. But yeah, there's all sorts you can do like that. You could essentially create a massive train convoy of these to drag resources across the planet. In real terms, in gameplay, that's probably a later game. Well, each of these segments has their own batteries underneath as well. We could redesign the top a little, so instead of a turret on the top of every one, we maybe have some hydrogen engines to provide some extra power. In terms of power to the wheels, in vanilla game, only these front wheels would be providing drive, but with scripts, there is a subgrid wheel control script that you can install on one of these programmable blocks, and that then means that once it's all connected up, all of the wheels all the way along the train would be providing drive. That can get problematic, especially if the wheels at the rear are set to a higher speed limit than the ones further to the front. So it does take quite a bit of setup to get it balanced right for driving. But with a hitch in the middle of each one like this, I think that would actually be quite easy to drive, quite nice to drive, and you could then extend it almost infinitely. To probably, if you really wanted to extend it all the way around the planet, that would take a lot of resources though, and I think having more than one trailer would probably be more of a later game thing anyway, by which time you've probably got flying vehicles, so you can create heavy lifters with large atmospheric thrusters and things like that to get you around. One thing it would be good for though would be if you were to haul lots of materials high up into the mountains, because the higher you get, the more altitude you get, the less effective thrusters become. So unless you were going to use hydrogen thrusters on the ships as well, on the lifter ships as well, you would probably be better off with a rover. Rovers are also more power efficient, so wheels don't use up as much power as thrusters do, meaning that you could potentially go longer distances between recharges with them. You can adjust the amount of drive these wheels have. I'll jump in the cockpit here and show you. So down here, you do have a power slider here. I mean, we're already at 60%, and you saw that was that was okay for one trailer, but it wasn't amazing. You can add more friction as well, which can help a little bit with drive, but the trouble is if you go too high on the power, your acceleration becomes more unpredictable. So it's quite often better to have a lower power setting and just adjust it on the fly as needed to get up hills and things like that, so that you maintain a constant acceleration and a constant speed. Otherwise, you can very easily flip a rover over, or end up launching it off of a slight ramp and face planting into the side of a cliff, things like that. Which, while very entertaining, in a survival game, can be quite catastrophic, particularly if you're hauling a lot of cargo. There is another script for the programmable block called Driver Assist System Explosive. That's one that it will adjust the strength and power of your wheels based on the mass of the vehicle, and as cargo containers get full, their mass increases as well. So if we're hauling a lot of stuff, this trailer is going to get quite heavy. And I'm not sure how well that works on subgrids, which, because this is rotor connected, it would be a subgrid back here. So I'm not sure how well it would detect the mass of the vehicle through a subgrid like that. It's something that I will probably test at some point. I may do it on a stream in the future to give it a test run once I can figure out why this isn't actually letting me select any scripts at the moment. But yeah, I think everything you've said makes sense. It's all good ideas, and I think it should all be possible with scripting. I'm just not sure how real world useful it will be once you get into a survival game. I can easily imagine having maybe 2 of these connected and driving over the landscape with them. I think once you start getting to 3 or more of them, the control of that as you're driving would become more and more difficult, even if you did have the power to move them. So back to this. Let's turn that off because it's noisy. So I don't think I've actually missed anything off of here. It's something, if we wanted to get an O2H2 generator on here, the only place I can see to put it would actually be under there. Look. That actually fits quite nicely. Okay, I'm going to leave that in there. We've got 2 batteries, the same as on the other one. We've got an O2H2 generator, and we have an engine which just needs piping in. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with that so far. Interestingly, I think that engine being there blocks that vent. So we'll take the vent out from there. It's in there. And then we'll stick the vent on the top of here. On the back here will work as well. Set that to depressurize. So I think we've got a good little grinder vehicle there as well, and if I take that over to the other truck, I should be able to connect that up and give it a try. So let's stick a copy of it back there just in case. we're going to put 2 of these on override, just like with the other one. We want the wheels strength at 15, like with the other one as well. Whoops. That isn't going to go very far unless I also get rid of that. Okay. Strength of these gyros is making it difficult to actually turn that, which is that's a potential problem. We don't want to be dragging those on the ground, so let's lean this forwards away. We need something under here to make sure that it doesn't drag on the ground, because the batteries and the O2H2 generator are fairly fragile. So I'm going to use some blast door blocks. Just under the back end here. Green makes it very hard to see at the moment. So we'll just add those as kind of little skids at the back to stop the damage from happening to the batteries or the O2H2 generator. And we'll probably want to do the same on here as well for these batteries. That should be enough to just stop them from catching on the ground. So let's move this thing forwards. Turning on that is not terrible, but I think I am going to just reduce the power of these 2 gyros that are on override a little, down to 70%. There we go, that's much easier to turn and control there. And it's still holding it in place nicely. Just there. It's sinking backwards slightly, but we saw that earlier, so I'm not too worried about that. So we'll do the same on this one as well with the gyros, the 2 that are on override to 70%. That will give us a little bit easier control. Just make sure that we can come back into here. That looks like it might be a little tight, but let's give it a shot. So where's our rotor? Go detach, attach. And we are connected. And we now have a grinding. Not sure I like those sparks. Have a closer look at those. Let's make it sunny again as well, will we? Yeah, so the problem with the reason we're getting sparks there is because these batteries still have the larger collision meshes. And so in this game, a lot of the blocks have collision meshes that are just slightly larger than what the block looks like it is. So where we actually see a gap here, I think the battery actually has got, yeah, you see the green box there is slightly bigger than the battery itself, whereas with armor blocks, they're pretty much on what they are. So I think we're just seeing a little bit of collision between this block here and the battery at the back here. That's what's causing that sparking. And it might be between these two as well, the hydrogen tank and this conveyor, because they take up more space than it actually looks like. I'm going to leave it as it is because it only seems to spark when I try to steer with the mouse. And when they're connected, I should be steering with the wheels anyway. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem. And Keen have already said they are planning to update the collisions on other blocks as well. So as they get through that work and update those collisions, that should just go away. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with that. And that gives us another one. So let's just get this front end painted for this one then, to keep it in line with the color scheme. Ooh, no, that's wrong. Go. We'll give this one a bit more red to it for the front end. See if I can do it without face planting into the floor. And I need to replace this as well under here. Oh, thanks, Captain Brad. Of the red batteries again. There we go, I think that looks cohesive and consistent. So far today we have a drill module, we have a grinder module, which I can now detach from this and move away. Let's go park it next to the drill module. And while I'm inside it, let's name it. Okay, both of which can connect up to our cargo module. So, given that we have a cargo module, I'm really tempted to have a go at this and see if I can make it work. That might be a subject for another stream though. For maybe next week's stream is getting an extra module that can be connected up to these. But I do like the idea. Okay, I'm going to blueprint this one. Okay. And I'm going to get both of these, all three of these, published onto the workshop and available. And we'll do that just now because then I can. And they'll be available straight away after the stream. Drill module. Yes. Rover. Okay. And then the grinder module. Great stuff. So I'll go and update the descriptions of those after this stream. They'll have links to each other in their descriptions, and you'll be able to subscribe to them and import them into your own worlds and have a play, see what you think. Thanks for watching, guys. It's been a lot of fun. Learned some stuff as well. Hope you guys did too. Have a great day, and we'll be back tomorrow evening for a survival stream. Thursday evening for a little bit of 7 Days to Die, and then next Sunday again for some more creative building. Thanks a lot, guys, and good day.